Baylor football just dodged a huge bullet. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but thank you, Texas Longhorns.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello there, Bears fans. Welcome to another Friday edition of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube. Check that out live every day at high noon Eastern time. And thank you for making this your first listen today and every day. Friday, we're going to talk a little bit of recruiting in here, but also going to talk about the major break that Baylor just got for their football coaching staff, as well as my conversation with Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football. If you haven't checked that out, check it out. Check out his show. I mean, we'll have the segment at the end of this show, talking about the national perspective, looking at this Baylor team going into 2025. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. I was giddy when last night I saw the Texas Longhorns will be hiring Chad Scott from West Virginia to be replacing Tashard Choice as the running backs coach. Because, guys, I know there were some of you out there as well. I was sweating bullets when it was announced that Texas was looking for a new running back coach, because I didn't even want to say it out loud, but I was like, well, one of the best damn recruiting coaches in the country is the running back coach at a school in that state right up the road. But thankfully, Texas hires Chad Scott and Baylor gets to keep Khenon Hall, the guy who was not single-handedly, but certainly spearheaded the Bears' fortunes on the recruiting trail, the reversal of the Bears' fortunes on the recruiting trail the last two cycles here, from the summer of 25 up to where we are now, and building a big-time 2026 class. If Khenon Hall were to go, that would have been a massive loss for Baylor. One of those that, the broadcasters don't talk about on Saturday game days, but those of us who follow this program day in, day out, those of you who watch the show and listen to the show every day, you understand how much I respect Khenon Hall and how much I think he deserves credit for this turnaround, not just on the recruiting trail, but in the culture as well. And, he's had help, right, with guys like Aaron Hunt and Dallas Baker. And this was just a staff in total that was struggling on the recruiting trail leading up to Khenon Hall's arrival. He obviously did fantastic things at SMU. He is turning around Baylor's fortune. And it seems like a natural fit, if you're Texas, to take a long, hard look at this guy. And maybe they did. I know Khenon Hall has been approached by other big-time schools since he's come here to Baylor, but he is stuck with this Bears program, and it seems like he is going to continue to do that. I know he's used the term on Twitter before, like, here to stay. That's what he means by here to stay, because, look, I know West Virginia's had a good running game the last couple of seasons. Chad Scott could be a pretty good coach, but, like, if you're looking at a guy who has been in Texas for years, Texas guy, dominates the state in terms of recruiting. I know UT doesn't need a terrible amount of help, but and a guy, by the way, who helped spearhead Baylor's running game this year. Baylor's running game was awesome with Bryson Washington and Dawson Pendergrass. They ran all over teams at times this year. So it just seemed like a natural fit for Khenon Hall to take that next step at the University of Texas. But as we've seen with some head coaching positions and some assistant coach positions in both football and basketball at the college level the last couple years, sometimes it's not just as simple as, oh, this is the big time. Baylor could be the big time. It's never going to be as big as the University of Texas. No, it's not going to be that. But that's a nice win for the Bears. Not only do you take a successful positional coach away from a conference rival, but you also get to keep your most valued recruiter and a guy who has really helped turn around their fortunes in that. So thank you, Texas Longhorns, for picking Chad Scott. Us Baylor fans can now rest easy, because I was worried. I really was. I was worried this week, but maybe I shouldn't have been this whole time. Speaking of recruiting, it is Friday, so we are getting to some big time recruiting news and just getting you updated on the week that was in Baylor recruiting. Looking at a couple of 2026 guys, the recruits are starting to schedule their official visits, and now those aren't going to be until June. You'll have your junior days and your OV weekends all the way through June. This is why it's a 12-month sport, this college football. But two that really stuck and kind of jumped off the page for me, a couple of 4-star guys. First, Jordan Deck, 4-star safety from Frisco Lone Star, which is an emerging power in 5A, Texas high school football. Keep an eye out for them if you're a big football fan up in that area. But Jordan Deck, he's safety, and he has announced his final 6 and his official visits, and Baylor's in some damn good company here. UCLA, Michigan, Penn State, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, and Baylor. That's a couple of playoff teams, 2, I guess 3 playoff teams if you ask Lane Kiffin, and the national champions from 2023 also in the mix for this safety Jordan Deck, which I was kind of getting ahead of myself there, but what I was trying to say through that mental lapse there was that all these teams are not in Texas. I don't know if you needed me to tell you guys that, but you've got a kid who is one of the top safeties, one of the top defensive backs in the state of Texas, and the only in-state school he's considering is Baylor. Not bad. And it's not like the other schools are New Mexico and Wyoming, okay? They're Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Penn State, Michigan, UCLA. Yeah. And the other guy I was looking at was KJ Edwards, 4-star running back from Carthage. I don't need to tell you guys, Texas high school football fans, about Carthage, one of the great dynasties in the state. He has narrowed it down to 4, final 4, which will all be official visits as well. SMU, A&M, Texas, and Baylor. Now that's a little bit different from the diversity that Jordan Deck threw out there for the places he's looking at. That's because KJ Edwards says, quote, "I see myself staying in Texas." I know some of you don't like when I kind of parse through it like this, but like I love having Baylor up there with, the Notre Dames and the Penn States and the Michigans of the world. Love that. And love that he's like, well, if I'm going to stay in Texas, I'm going to go to Baylor. And then from KJ Edwards, the guy I was just talking about, 4 Texas schools. Not Tech, not TCU. 2 of the deepest pocket programs in America, right? With prestige, Texas and Texas A&M. And another deep pocket program, a recently developed deep pocket program that is in the college football playoff in SMU. Like, we got to give that the respect that it deserves, man. That's what he has identified as the 4 programs in Texas he would want to play at. It just keeps getting better for these Baylor Bears on the recruiting trail, man. It just keeps getting better. But the nation isn't noticing that just yet. That's why I had to stop by Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin to talk about how the nation is viewing this Baylor football team in 2025. And I kind of had to let them know why this Baylor team is worth the hype. That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode is brought to you by my good friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action all game long. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting features, okay? It lets me kind of make every moment more exciting, right? I feel like I never miss my chance on a good payout or a good bet. Now, right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Was it a fluke, or is Baylor actually back? Cam Stewart, Locked On Baylor Bears, joining me here on the show. Let's start with that, Cam. You, me, Drake, everybody except a select few inside of the city of Waco's city limits thought Baylor would stink it up and then fire Dave Aranda, and here we are. Well, they could be a Big 12 contender next year, and they're top half of the conference in odds. So what are we doing here?
We're getting back, Spencer. That's what we're doing here. We are getting so back. Okay. Look, I understand why some people might have some concerns from the outside about this Baylor team going into this year, because we were also ready to get rid of Dave Aranda. I was ready to get rid of Dave Aranda for sure. But they bring back the most important positions. And it's like people will say, oh, they didn't beat a ranked team last year. And it's like, well, the Big 12 ain't changing. Like, everyone beats up on everybody. They're not going to be playing more than 3 ranked teams in the conference, right? They have some tough ones to start, but like, they bring back Jake Spavital at offensive coordinator, Sawyer Robertson, quarterback, who really fit that. Your top 2 running backs who really fit that offense. And arguably, I thought your 2 most impactful pass catchers, maybe even 3, are all coming back for this year for an offense that was outstanding in the back half of the season that led them to a 6-game winning streak. Defense, it's a different issue. But I think they can get to the Big 12 championship game with the offense they have right now.
See, that's a big statement to me. We're going to get to Sawyer Robertson, who might be the most underrated quarterback in the Big 12 going into next year, because he just had a sneaky great season, but no one really noticed because we had preconceived notions about Baylor, which is why this show exists, of course, Cam, to change the narrative, to influence the college football fan base out there. But Baylor's schedule going into next year, I mean, boy.
You like that? You like that? You like that? You like that?
No,
September,
Kirk
baby?
Cousins. I don't like that if I'm a Baylor fan. I love it as a college football fan, but not all records are created equal in college football. And I tell you what, Baylor has the Florida schedule of Big 12 schedules next year. For those who are unfamiliar, I'll just read you the Big 12 teams. I won't mention the 2 Power 4 non-conference opponents who could both be ranked at the end of the season. Their Big 12 schedule has ASU, that just won the conference, Oklahoma State on the road, Kansas State, at TCU, at Cincy and UCF, that's manageable. Then closes with Utah, at Arizona, and Houston, who's going to be much improved. What did Baylor do to tick off Brett Yormark, where he said, here, have the worst schedule I could give you?
Hey, I love it. I love it, man. I actually think it's advantageous for him. I think the true ones that we look at in February, Spencer, that are the tough games are at the beginning of the schedule for the most part. The 2 toughest that I see, right? Kansas State, that's a home game. Arizona State, that's a home game. And you've got them within the first 6 weeks of the year. You know how much the committee loves the teams that do well at the end of the season. They don't care about the ones who start out, 6-0, but end 10-2, losing 2 in a row. They don't like that. They like, the 10-2,
BYU,
the 10-2s that are not created equal. That's a good example. Good example, my folks out in Provo. They like the teams that start out 4-2 and then win 6 in a row. They like those better. So I like having those kind of at the front. Utah, I've come around a little bit on Utah, not to be like odds-on favorite to win the conference, which is what Vegas thinks they are. But I still think Utah can stub some toes. Let's put it that way. And so that towards the end of the season, I don't like. But for the most part, you got some of your biggest games at home. And for Baylor historically and Dave Aranda historically, that's the best you can ask for.
By the way, I don't know who this Vegas character is you allude to, but I use FanDuel.
Vic Vegas from Bar Rescue.
I use FanDuel. Nice. I use FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, who have the 2 preseason favorites as Arizona State and Kansas State tied at the top. And, what do you know? Baylor's got both of them on the schedule, and others as well. Their non-conference has Auburn at home and at SMU. I don't know what they're thinking with those games, but
Thinking they're going to beat both of them and really put the nation on notice.
Okay, but do you actually think that, or do you just think there is an opportunity to put the nation up? Because if Baylor wins their first 3 non-conference games, let's not forget about the powerhouse that is Samford. The Bulldogs will not be messing around.
In September.
Yeah. Well, yeah. 100%.
Look, with Auburn, I know they had a good portal, really good portal. And everyone loves the recruits they're bringing in. But if we're talking about the players who have played on this team and are coming to the team next year, Baylor's a better team than Auburn. And SMU, who is a team that I really respected through this whole year, not even a road game. They don't have a home field advantage. Okay? So that already you take out a huge part of what FanDuel would put towards SMU. You know, having that home field advantage gives them a couple points. They don't have it. So, yes, I do like Baylor in those games.
Okay. I mean,
I do like Baylor.
Yeah. It's bold. Yeah. You got the BU hat on there. Maybe just so slightly on the bias
side. Still paying
side.
them, though.
Yeah, of course. But let's talk about Sawyer Robertson because, I mean, the numbers from this past year, really good. What exactly was Baylor waiting for in figuring out who the starting quarterback was? Because, boy, once he got in there, suddenly Baylor was the hottest team in the league.
The only negative I took at the end of this Baylor season was, but can they actually identify who the right quarterback is? Because, you know, they put their eggs in the Blake Shapen basket a couple years ago, which I think was still probably the right choice at the time. But you significantly downgraded your record-wise the 2 years after going to the Sugar Bowl with Gary Bohannon. And then they picked Taquan Finn over Sawyer Robertson. Sawyer Robertson has never won a quarterback battle at the college level. And yet he was absolutely snubbed for being an all Big 12 player this past year and has the best QBR of any returning quarterback in the nation going into 2025. The kid's an absolute stud. He walks on the field. He puts on his pads and his helmet. And he throws 3 touchdowns in the game. That's all he does. Man, he throws touchdowns, he runs for touchdowns, and he turned this team around. He got the whole team Yeti coolers. He's like the most beloved player in the whole Big 12. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I felt like Costanza's dad in the Jay Buhner episode. Remember? You don't know what the hell you're doing. That's what I thought about when you saw 2 games.
How could you trade Jay Buhner?
What are you trading Jay Buhner for? By the way, that relates all because he played at MCC, which is in Waco, so it all comes back. It's all coming up Waco. I don't know why they didn't pick Sawyer Robertson at the beginning, but lest they have to make a decision this year, it has fallen into their lap, and then after that, the succession plan will probably turn towards Walker White. Ironically, coincidentally enough, the Auburn transfer.
The Auburn transfer.
4-star guy coming out of high school, top 3 dual threat quarterback in the nation, who was also considering Baylor out of high school. So finally, it feels like there's some sort of succession plan at that position for Baylor.
Well, will the Bears be West Virginia or will they be something else this year? Time will only tell. Cam Stewart, Locked On Baylor.
Special thank you to Spencer McLaughlin for having me on for Locked On College Football. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you guys. Special thank you to you guys all the time for making this your first listen today and every day. I so appreciate the community that we've grown here at Locked On Baylor and how much you've helped this channel grow. I thank you guys so much. I do want to know what you think about this game tomorrow against Colorado. Let me know down in the comments below. Is this a sneaky game for Baylor, or should this be just business as usual? Let me know. Maybe give a score prediction down in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. It keeps us growing so that we can get you better content, and I get to keep my job, and I like this job. So thank you guys again, and we will see you later on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.